Hi there, Chad here from the AI Content Dojo. In this guide, I want to show you how to write long-form content using GPT-3 AI with Shortly AI. So this guide is from popular demand. It's all the excitement that's around all these new GPT-3 AI tools that are cropping up. It's really easy to just sort of get one, jump right in, and then find out that articles just aren't instantly auto-generated, and there's some things to learn, aren't there? In order to get the most from these tools anyway. And the best one, which is called Shortly AI, simply keeps getting better and better and currently stands head and shoulders above the competition. So in this guide, I want to show you how to create long form articles using Shortly. In essence, it's a dance with your AI partner, but let me show you the moves and how to understand that dance so that you can better make use of this tool. You first have to understand your partner. And that means, what is GPT-3? Now, I really don't want to bore you with all the computer science-y terms, so here's the easy way to understand it. GPT-3 is a unidirectional, meaning one way, predictive text algorithm with a very large language model, like huge, like billions of parameters. And that's essentially its memory. And all that to say is it's really good at finishing your sentences. And that's why I call it a dance, because you write some, the GPT-3 AI predicts what it thinks that you want it to write next, and then it writes it for you. That's it. It's almost magic. It's like autocomplete for your sentences. It's really cool. Okay, so keeping the narrative thread is one of the common limitations that you might find with a lot of the GPT-3 writing apps. And in essence, that's kind of like keeping it together for the flow of your article. So what you might run into is some apps is that it's kind of disjointed enough to the point where, the beginning of a paragraph or a section might say one thing and then the other, like at the end of that paragraph or whatever, sort of contradicts itself just a moment later. It is a true problem, but not for Shortly AI. And that's because of the dance. If you write a little and you let the AI write a little and you keep taking turns, you're going to automatically, maintain that narrative thread, mostly because you're trying to. When you let that AI finish your sentence for you, if it doesn't finish it in exactly the way that you prefer, you're going to tweak it and change it a little bit so that, your narrative thread stays intact. And you create an article that has good flow and it makes sense for your reader, kind of presents the thoughts in a nice logical order and things like that. Basically, if you don't become too greedy with the AI and let the AI write too much for you, you'll probably be fine. And even sometimes when you do, you might get lucky, but most of the time you're probably going to get a bunch of content that you either didn't want, didn't plan for, and you'll have to edit quite a bit. So to help maintain that narrative thread in Shortly AI, one of the things you're going to want to know how to do is control the context, especially when you're in a subsection of your article. And context is basically the words and phrases that get sent over to GPT-3 so that it can write the next content for you. Now, I do have a more in-depth guide on the context that you can, if you're following along in the text here, you can click here to go and see. But real quick, in Shortly AI, the article brief, the title, and all the content that is above the current location of your cursor are sent over to OpenAI's servers as context. So when you tap that Write For Me button, all of that gets sent over. There's a little bit more, voodoo going on behind the scenes that Shortly's doing to help nudge GPT-3 to give you the content that you are probably expecting, but that's behind the scenes stuff that you don't have to worry about. And so when you start getting deeper into some of these subsections of your article, you're going to need a way to control some of the context, and that's where Shortly's / command comes in. And I like to just call it the context cutoff ruler, because that's exactly what it does. It cuts off the context right where that ruler is. So if you recall, I just mentioned that the article brief, title, and everything above the cursor goes to the AI. But if you have or let's say that you're deep in your article, like maybe you're in a subsection and it's kind of got its own sort of, it's part of the content, but it's got its own sort of unique sort of section. I'm trying to explain this as like it has its own topic, sort of subtopic inside of there that you want to kind of focus on for a moment. You can use the triple slash to cut it off from the rest of the content above it momentarily while you let the AI help you out at that point. And so I'll show you this too in the article after this inside of Shortly. But once you learn how to do that, you're free to kind of begin dancing with the AI again inside of that subsection. And part of the dance is understanding the article brief, because the article brief can help you out a ton. So I'm often asked if changing the article brief has any sort of impact on the output, and yes, it does a lot. Like a lot. Like you can see right here, capital a lot. The article brief is where you're asking the AI to produce something for you. It's what you want, like, please write an article, or, please write an ad, or whatever. It's where you're asking for it. And it's important to understand that you can change it anytime. It's not just you set it at the beginning of the article and then you can't change it. You absolutely can. And so one of the ways to use it is maybe you're at the beginning of your article and you're like, please write an article for me about, and then you fill in as much topic-rich information as you can. But later on, when you're in a subsection, you want to change what you're going to write about because you're in that subsection. And maybe your article brief could be getting in the way. So you can change it, because the article brief is sent to AI, or sent to Shortly, or used by Shortly, to help you create content. The moment you click the write for me button or hit Command Enter, that's when the article brief is sent. It's not just sent once. So anytime you change it, you can make those changes to impact what the AI might return for you. So change it up at the moment when you're needing it, if you need to. Many articles you write, you probably will not have to worry about it. You could probably set a real nice topic-rich article brief and then probably forget about it. But when you are sometimes really deep into an article and it's really long, maybe you're 2,000, 3,000 words in, and you're in a subsection that's within another subsection, and you're kind of trying to break out into a slight tangent maybe, that's when you might run into a little bit of trouble. So use the triple slash to cut it off from the rest of the content above the cursor, right? And then update the article brief to ask for something more specific to the section that you're in. And that will help you get the content that you want. There's something else that'll help you write in Shortly faster too, and that's slash commands. They really do empower your writing. And these are specialized commands that kind of give you some writing superpowers, right? Like they're refined commands or some long form commands. And they're sort of little writing aids in a sense, I guess. The refined commands, they help you tweak and improve your sentences using some AI assistance. And if you're following along, I do have a specific video designed just for the refined commands. But they do exactly what they sound like. You shorten, rewrite, expand. Shorten will try and make your sentence more concise, and rewrite will try and change up the wording, see if you get back something a little more, enticing or something. Expand is the real masterpiece here, though, in my opinion, in terms of writing long-form content quickly. You use expand to add some more meat to your article, basically. It'll take a certain topic or something inside your article and add more to it. And sometimes it produces some really good information for you. All right, long-form commands. These are the new ones, the newcomers to the block. They're probably still being tweaked a little bit in the background to improve them, but suffice it to say, these two commands really help you create long-form content because, sometimes you need some better understanding of your topic. So Brainstorm is going to help you think through your topic more by coming up with sort of new content ideas around it, or help you just understand a wider scope to your topic. It's a real good tool to help you work through adding more content that maybe you didn't plan for at the beginning. And Outline does exactly what it sounds like. It gives you some nice ideas on how you might outline your article and flow through from section to section. It's super useful. You might think of your own outline, of course, at first, but just try /outline anyways, because it might show you some things that you didn't think about when you first started writing. Now here's where some real power comes in. These slash commands are very flexible. And when you first learn about them, they all seem to kind of have their place, right? You're going to shorten, expand will expand, Brainstorm is going to give you some ideas, and outline is going to outline, right? But you can actually get really creative with these and produce some really nice workflows that fit your needs. So, for instance, this is actually pretty fun. You might brainstorm ideas and then outline them, using those two commands. You could even then outline the outline to create a really deep structured outline. And then you could expand on that outline to create content before you begin the dance with the AI assistant. And then use, of course, / to cut off context where you need to. Or you could brainstorm an outline for a section and then outline the brainstorm. It's just any combination of these, you could really use it. I mean, you could even do like brainstorm to then shorten some of the findings from brainstorm to kind of turn them into more concise versions of them, and just keep going and going. I mean, the options are endless, and there's more commands on the way. They're going to really kind of take this all to a new level too. So learn the commands. They're awesome. And so, my point is try and think of your own unique mix and match these commands to any way that you want to produce content faster. But don't forget the dance. Yeah, you probably heard me say dance, probably 15 times in this article, and it's for good reason, because there's too many tools out there that kind of make you believe that GPT-3 is some sort of magic product that's going to produce your article instantaneously with no work from you. It is not. It is really not. It's more like a good assistant. And you can think of it like a dance partner, or you can think of it like you're the boss, but you need to be a good boss. Provide Shortly with good, high-quality topics or topic-rich article briefs and sentence leads, and the AI will produce some really good results for you, and sometimes even surprise you. So in summary, just go with the flow. You write, the AI writes. You use the context to your advantage. Use the commands when you need more power. At first, of course, it's going to feel a little bit awkward maybe, but as you get better with it, as you get better with leading the AI, the results are fantastic. You're going to find yourself eventually working really, really fast, and maybe even finding some new angles to your article that you probably didn't think about when you first started writing it even. And that's kind of the cool part about it is, you can do a ton of research before you start writing, but then as you're going through it, the AI is showing you things. You're like, oh, that's a good thing to bring up. Maybe not right then at that moment in your article, but you can keep it and use it a little bit later and make it a whole new section or something like that, And, as you're dancing with the AI, you're able to keep the narrative thread throughout the article, so you're not producing something that feels like a hodgepodge, mishmash of content that's just thrown together to kind of create something, And then, don't let the AI lead you astray too much, of course. Of course, you need to write for a human. Always, always, always. You're writing for a human. You want somebody to be reading your content, and there's a reason they're there to read your content. Create your content to answer that reason, or to give them what they seek when they come to your article. Later after that, you can optimize for Google, and then if you follow the perfect article checklist, you're going to create something stunning. Okay, demo time, I guess. Sort of. I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. So here's what I'm going to do. In Shortly, this is the article that I just created. This whole thing. It is, if you look at the writing stats, 1,354 words. It took me I'd say about 15 minutes-ish with me not rushing, just kind of taking it easy, just enjoying the process. Plus, I wanted to make sure I kept like I explained, I wanted to keep the narrative thread. I want to make sure there was cohesion between all the thoughts in this article. So what I'm going to show you is the article's already done, but as we're going through here, these double square brackets, that indicates where I started the AI, and the double square brackets the other way is where the AI ended. It is after editing though, so this is not precisely what the AI returned, but it's very close. And I do, of course, I kind of tweak the AI as I go through, because I don't want to end up with a giant jumble of content, right? So I want to make sure that as I'm going through, it's giving me what I wanted. Let's see, do I have an article brief? Yes, and it's a pretty simple one, and I did not change it at all through the whole article. So I didn't get stuck, but of course this is only a 1,300 word article, so it's doable. Anytime you see these hashtags, that's markdown. This means that when I paste this into WordPress, it'll just become a heading 2 tag. That was not there during writing. I added it all later after I was done writing, because if you put these things in while you're writing, you're going to end up with patterns that the AI might pick up on and start to produce more of those patterns, and I didn't want that. So you don't put those in there until after. Okay, so I just went through the whole article. You can see here that, this is the guide by popular demand with all the excitement around. The AI wrote something about this, which was actually pretty not bad, so I kept it. I got down here. This is where I would consider the end of the intro of the article. And right here in my WordPress site is where I would have a table of contents. This is not a / command inside of Shortly. This is just me showing you where, if you recall from the article, there's a table of contents here that gets created by WordPress, and that's right here. After that, I did an outline, and the outline produced something like, what is GPT-3? Keep a narrative thread. I added the, it mentioned something about keeping thoughts in notes, or make a list of your thoughts. I changed that to understand context, to write subsections, and then this is mine, of course, update the article brief. But I just used the outline real quick just to kind of see what it would come up with. And the GPT-3 explanation, partially me. There's a little bit. Yeah, AI wrote more than that here, but I didn't want to keep too much, so I just shortened it down to this using /shorten. And the rest is pretty much me, except until we get to a very large language model. I added the memory right there, though. And then after I started getting more into the meat of this article, the keep the narrative thread intact part, I wanted to just see what Brainstorm would come up with, like how to keep a narrative thread intact when writing a long article was what I used as the inputs for that / command. I'm just going to run it right now. Of course, it creates something different every time, so I have no idea what it's going to create. But I just wanted to use it it created nothing. Go figure, right? I wanted to use it as a way to show, just learn about kind of more what would be in here for that. Yeah, okay. So something like this is kind of what it created. And this one's actually going on and on and on and on. And mostly it's just based around writing sort of, I guess, advice, right? And you can hit Control-Z to go back. After I did that, I did an outline just to see kind of if there was any kind of flow that I could try and follow. It gave me some ideas, but I ended up not using it. I guess I used it, but I didn't keep the exact text that it output. I just used it to kind of give me something in the back of my mind while I was writing to kind of continue through this section. And then again, you can see where the AI is taking over. I wish that Shortly maybe had some colors or something I could put I could use to show these sections a little bit better. I would say that roughly I wrote most of this article, but I'm trying to teach it instead of bring the content out of it. And I'm writing about a specific program that may not be in the context that GPT-3 understands. So much of my content is going to have to be custom from me, which is, I'm fine with it, because I'm trying to create something that hasn't been created before, not just connecting pieces of information together to produce something for you. So yeah, so we get down through all these sections basically, and as I'm going through these, there will be time. I didn't put them all in there. I like these notes up here at the top. Sorry, brainstorm, outline. I do that quite a bit actually as I'm going through these sections, just to kind of get an idea of what I want to write about. There's a point down here. I think when I get down here to remember the dance, I did a / here just to kind of cut off the context above it so that I could be just writing about this. And I really like, I've probably did this section here maybe 2 or 3 times until I got something that I really kind of liked, and where it was talking about magic and that kind of stuff, But I did, of course, edit it. It's more like a good assistant was from me, but was something similar. I can't recall now, but it's something very similar to that. It was just kind of long-winded, so I just edited it myself. But as I'm going through this, you can see that I'm using brainstorm and outline kind of continually throughout it. In places where I want to shorten the content, I use the shorten command, which is command commands left bracket. Don't switch the narrative too much. Okay, that's fine. It shortened it up a little bit. Right for a human, we can expand on that. Just showing, like, once you start learning these things and you keep going. Right for human, there'd be a loyal reader. Okay, perfect. It's actually pretty good. So that's all it is, right? I'm just trying to show you that there's a dance. The slash commands can really enhance things for you, and as you go through and you're writing some and the AI is writing some, you're going to end up with a nice long article. And if you really need to create a long article, like you need like a pillar post or something that's like 4,000 words, probably the easiest way to do it would be to use brainstorm to come up with some ideas, use outline to create some outline components to create sections, and then use outline again as many times as you need to create as many sections as you want, but also within each of those sections going in and using brainstorm and outline to come up with more ideas for those subsections. And just once you have a nice long outline, basically one big outline that's got some subsections to it and everything, then you'd go in and start using expand and dancing with the AI to fill in the content in those outlines. And I would say if you're trying to shoot for 4,000, if you had maybe about 10 sections or 6 or 7 main sections, with each section having 2 or 3 sections per subsections per outline part, you'd probably end up with a pretty decent long article, 3,000, 4,000 words or something like that. And that's how you create long form content using GPT-3 AI with a tool like ShortlyAI. I hope that you found this really helpful, and if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe if you think that you want to be notified of these guides and stuff in the future. I'd really appreciate it. If you don't have ShortlyAI yet, there is a 3-day trial when you sign up, and if you sign up using the link in my show notes below here, ShortlyAI will provide me with a little bit of a commission to help support the AI Dojo and the work I do to help you learn more about it. And I would really appreciate it, of course. So without further ado, it's time to get writing, create the next one, and until next time, take care.